we're at a point right now where it's like women are wondering like where are the real men at? How come they're not approaching me?
They're
Most
in
women
church with Ruslan.
Hello, pull up.
Mostly what they tell me is like they would love for like today the number one way that men and women meet is online. They meet on Tinder, they meet on Hinge, they meet on Bumble. That's simply they don't meet in church, they don't meet friends, they don't meet at school, they don't meet at work, they meet online.
And those are the ones who come out more feminine, believe it or not. They're the ones who are a little bit more like, a little more shy because they won't approach you in person, but over the phone they have all this bold stuff to say.
That was you probably have the stats on this. That was trending in that direction during COVID. Obviously, that accelerated like crazy.
It's through the roof. And again, what I keep saying is like the old order way of thinking about dating. We don't date in happy days anymore. We don't date in like the sock hop and we're going to have a malt after the dance.
Jukebox days.
We're going to go stare. We're going to go steady. Yeah, we love the idea. It's romanticized, but that's not how we meet today. And we're 21 years into the 21st century. Wow. But the other thing I was going to say is I hate this kind of shit right here because it is telling men to man up after generations of telling men to man down. So when we say, well, where are the real men at? How come they're not around? And that you want to know why we're having the conversation about should a man cheat or should a man not cheat or a high value man should have a harem, a soft harem, however they want to do it. It's not because men are going, yeah, man, this is a great idea. I think I'm going to go do this. It's because women can't get the strong alpha guy that they all feel that they're entitled to right now. So they would rather share a high value alpha guy than be saddled with a faithful beta right now because they don't want that boringness. They can get the benefits of provisioning, protection, and parental investment that the beta used to be able to provide for women, but they do it themselves.
They make their own money.
How do you fix that? You've been influenced.
I make my own money. I do my own.
They don't need men, but they want men. Well, okay, what kind of men do they want? Strong masculine guy who is traditionally, conventionally, evolutionarily is a strong dominant alpha male.
But my question is, so what things have encouraged men to become that more feminine side, like bring out that more feminine side?
Sedation, first and foremost.
Like what?
Well, pornography is that's the easiest one.
You think watching porn makes a man more feminine?
Absolutely, because it sedates them. They have no reason. There's no incentive to do anything. You want to know why guys are listless and rudderless? Primarily, it's because we have industrialized our forms of sedation. Whether that's porn, whether that's video games, whether that's legalizing marijuana, whatever keeps you in bed and not getting out of bed to actually go do something. Like I can be. Again, we can be the most influential teachers on the internet and we can say, get out there and go do this and smash in the gates of hell, right? You leave the church or you leave the YouTube or you leave whatever, and you know what? You're right back where you were. It's an extroversion that is actually an introversion. And once you get to that point, if you're still locked into pornography, and I think it's like 68% of Christian men admit to being addicted to pornography.
What?
That is sedation.
That's not very Christ-like.
And that's you want to know if I have a beef against like sedation or against pornography. That's the thing is that if it becomes so consuming that you can't get out of bed in the morning and all you're going to do is just do barely the bare minimum to do what you have to do to survive. That's not living, and that's not prospering, and that's not becoming any better than you are. And then there's also we can talk about the opioid epidemic too, which no one wants to talk. We'll probably talk about it around election time, but that's a huge sedation right now. We legalized marijuana. That's a huge sedation, and people are going to come at me and go, "I smoke weed. I'm still no, you're not. Not as much as you would be if you didn't smoke weed."
True. But
alcoholism. Name the sedate food.
So what would your advice be, or what
stop
would you,
sedating or something?
Yeah.
Well, how would you reverse that?
Well,
what would you think?
Let me just before you answer this, let me just what you're saying makes complete sense because a man used to have to get out of the house and hunt.
Yes.
I'm talking just historically, and then even and before the internet age. Now, pop a pill, smoke some pot, order some DoorDash, jerk off on your phone. Why do I even need to get out of bed anymore? That's essentially what you're saying. You're sedated.
Well, the other thing is like when we talk about the 80-20 rule, and let me clarify this: 100% of women want to get with the top 20% of guys. The 80% that they don't want to get, that they say are unattractive, those are the guys we're talking about right now. Those guys who are like, oh, I don't have a chance. I'm nihilistic, hopeless, black pill doomer. Woe is me. That 80 percentile right there is always been there, and it's always going to be there.
So is it the feminization of men, or is it like just the demasculization of men?
I think the 20th century ease with which we can indulge in our pleasures, whether that's food, whether that's booze, whatever your sedation, your of choice happens to be, whatever that is what is preventing, I would say, most people from actually benefiting and becoming maximizing their potential.
And is it only going to get worse in the metaverse?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. Don't plug yourself in.
Yeah. I want to turn it over to you, Ruslan, but you were an athlete. You get out of the house. You work on yourself. You go to church. You're not sitting home and playing video games. You've been very vocal about that. What's your prescription?
I mean, that was a lot of prescriptions there, man. I mean, that's as close as I've heard you come.
Well, when people ask me, when people say, "What do you think about?" Like what? Because I get this all the time. People say, "What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?" And it's like, you're not asking me for that. My 18-year-old self would tell me to go fuck off. Okay,
get out of here, kid, you fucking geek.
I know this. Okay, what they're asking me is, what would you tell to the younger generation? So what do I see? My analysis is this: is that there more guys. We just talked about the Lost Boys generation. More men in this generation, particularly the last half of the millennials and maybe all of Generation Z, are the first generations that have been raised on social media. The first generations that have had you were talking about PlayStation was a big deal in the 90s. Well, imagine you were born in year 2000. You're 22 years old right now, and you've never known a world without a cell phone, without the internet, without social media, without being able to do this. By the way, this is the only time in history we could actually do this. But we take it for granted. I mean, I come from a generation that's prior to all this, so I kind of can sort of get the balance of this. But you have to remember that the generations that have been acculturated and socialized in that environment, they have no frame of reference of anything that was before that. So it seems natural to them, like, I'm going to smoke weed, and I'm going to be sedated, and I'm going to do that. Me looking at this from sort of this God's eye third-person view, I go, okay, stop sedating yourself, or it doesn't matter what I say or what tools I give you. Get out. That's pragmatic advice. If it's advice, here's what you need to do. Get out of bed. Stop sedating yourself. Get up and go.
Yeah, I think everything he said, I think, could be defined in a simple phrase. And I tell my son this all the time: if you do what is easy, your life will be hard. If you do what is hard, your life will be easy. Wow. If you start making those sacrifices, I'm sure we're all familiar with newbie gains. Right? No. If you're in your late teens, early 20s, you've never strength trained before, and you hit perfect macros and perfect strength training for 6 months, you could put on 20 pounds of muscle really quick. They're called newbie gains. So the earlier you start, the faster you could put it on, and the more likely you are to sustain it. This is, you see the guy in his 20s that eats like crap, mid-20s. It's because he got yoked when he was 18, 19, testosterone levels higher. All of these different things impact you. And I think many things in life work that way. Do what is hard, and life will be easier. When your brain is still early, you could acquire skills faster. You can learn languages more when you're a child. And so we talk about this with my 7-year-old. My nephew was just over. I have a 17-year-old nephew who came over, teaching him video editing. We're teaching him strength training. We're going to the gym sometimes 2 a day.
He needs mentors.
He needs mentors. He needs men to pour into him. And so that a majority of my time in church has been doing that. We used to run a Monday night men's group. Men would show up, and we'd be like, dude, what's your goals? I want to lose weight. Get your butt on a scale. How's your eating been? We'd make men weigh in. Accountability. And so I think these are the sorts of things where I think are so necessary and there's so much information. There's so much access to information that if you could just point to people and just say, hey man, this would be a time to start working on your physique. This would be a time to start working on your scarce skills. And this would be a time to start working on your relationships, your network, your soft skills. If you do those 3 things earlier on in life, and I meet guys through my YouTube comment section that I become friends with, that we do business with.
You're very good about that, by the way.
We met through Instagram DMs, right? Like the world is so much smaller that you can meet people everywhere. And so I think if I had to break it down, those would be the 3 things, man.
And I should also point out that like there are bright and shining hopes that I have in this generation. Like when I'm working with like Kevin Savo and the Savo brothers, they're Generation Z, but they're on their game. They're not sedating themselves. They're out there actually hustling their ass off. So there are brief little spots where I see someone from that generation. I go, that kind of gives me hope.
I gotta tell you, I've been very impressed with the few early 20 somethings that either work here.
The guys I know are rock stars. Everyone I know in their early 20s are rock stars.
There's a lot of it that's like it's easy to shit on the younger generation, but
The bar has been set so low, it's almost impossible not to at least raise yourself above the bar.
I have a quick question. Do you think the rise of people being more openly gay and that being more supportive, do you think that also is a cause of feminization of men? Do you think that's a
can
big
of worms?
I do. I do. Yes, absolutely.
Gotcha.
And especially, it's not enough to be gay. That doesn't make you special anymore. You have to be trans. You have to be something else. You've got to be something more. Everybody wants to feel special.
You can't just be LGBT. You got to have some Q's and H's and pluses and minuses.
You want to know why there's 71 different genders? That's 71 different flavors of special that I can be.
It's like Baskin Robbins times 2. Let's talk to the ladies right now for a second. By the way, it's we got about 20 minutes.
I got one more question quote for Rolo.
Okay. Let's talk to the women out there because we just gave you some game, gave you some advice for the young men out there. Get off your ass, have some purpose.
Stop watching
figure
porn.
out your identity. Stop, watching porn online. Let's talk to the women out there. Okay, from your perspectives, let's go with you first. What is the biggest challenge that women are facing these days? What's the biggest problem that you're seeing in the not manosphere, women's sphere? If that's a term. Is that even a thing?
You want to start with?
Go.
I think women have immense pressure from every side pulling on them. I think they have the expectation to be highly educated, to be highly independent from men, to Rolo's point, to be hot, to be friendly, to prioritize their family. All of these different things, and I think it's a lot of different things that are pulling on women. They did a study. They found out that 56% of working women who have kids 18 and under would have preferred to stay home had been given the option. Right?
Say those numbers again.
56% of working women with kids 18
so more
and
than
under
half of women
would have preferred to stay home if given the option. So I think there's something to women that and Jordan Peterson made the point of the biggest fall off in terms of women leaving is in executive law. When you start getting to higher levels of law, women check out because if I'm married to a lawyer, which most lawyers are married to other lawyers, $200K a year versus $300, $500K, the lifestyle change isn't that much different.
They don't go to college to find a husband anymore. They get a law degree to find a husband now.
So they exit out of that field. So I think there's so many different pressures on women to figure these things out. And I think some education is good. I think it's good to be educated. I think it's good to have some skills. But I think if your entire mentality is like, I'm going to be this bad, independent chick that's going to run everything, most men don't want that from most women. Most men want a wife that's flexible. Most men want a wife that will let them lead. Most men want a wife that's fit, healthy, and that is okay with. And again, there's outliers. There's outliers in situations. There's entrepreneurial women that are incredible and they're crushing it. And there's outliers, but most men also probably would want the woman to raise the kids and stay home with the kids. And we've done that. My wife came home 2014, right when we had our first kid. And she's been home ever since. She works from home. She does some stuff. She does all of our accounting. But I think that's still a very healthy model. And they've done the studies. I told you this, the family with 2 incomes nets less than the family with 1 breadwinner, which again goes back to financial independence. If as a man you can provide, I think you position yourself to be in a much more happy marriage, stable marriage, joyful marriage. And so I think there's a lot of pressure, man. And I would just say, who are you pulling from and who do you want to be? Same point.
Well, Rolo, you talk about this all the time, that men don't really care what women make because they don't share their money with men.
No, well, the number one precipitator of divorce is when a couple is making the same amount of money and the woman gets like a raise in pay. She gets a promotion at work, or she is boosted into a status and also makes more money than the guy does.
That's in a marriage, you're saying.
The number one precipitator of divorce.
Are single or working women doomed for a lifetime of sadness because they're chasing the money?
Yes,
really?
You are. Yes, you are doomed. You're doomed to a lifetime. Statistically speaking, Morgan, not me.
Would you say career working women or just working women?
What's the difference? Right?
Well, career working women is that
it's the difference between a careerist and a job.
Exactly. Career is like, this is my priority. A man will come later. Kids will come later. A girl working, she's like, I got to pay my bills.
Yeah, there's a difference between a job and a career for women.
Exactly.
And the other, I should also add this, is that like we have sold, and I agree with you here, it's like we have sold women a bill of goods really since the sexual revolution evolution that you can have it all, baby, right? You don't need a man. You might want a man, but you don't even need a man to reproduce. Go down to the sperm bank, go down to the fertility clinic. You can have you don't even have to do that now. You can go on Facebook and find a sperm donor if you want to. Literally can do that. But so we have essentially, you want to talk about like making things convenient for women in that sense. We have said we made men superfluous right now, whether you're a father or whatever, until it's like, Father's Day and it's like, do better, dad kind of thing. But we've made guys superfluous in the sense that like women don't see any point of getting with a guy who is either going to be an abuser, he's going to be a doofus like Homer Simpson, he's going to be incompetent. Yeah, we teach women that men are untrustworthy, that you can't depend on them for security. The number one thing, and this happened with you and
but they
Allie,
are if they cheat.
You just did what I was just about to say.
Hold that thought.
Just what I was about to say.
Quick poll. Put this up there for our gentlemen out there. Would you rather have more of a housewife, traditional woman, or do you want a woman who's out there making money? If you could put that poll out there, I'd love to see the results.
Natalia, you
said housewife or what?
Housewife or working woman.
Okay.
Natalia, you just made my case for me. Okay, when Allie was on here and she did that one viral video,
Allie Drummond.
Allie Drummond. She was talking about.
Shout out to Allie.
Yeah, when she was talking about like, I'm a traditional wife, I submit to my husband, blah blah blah. The number one complaint, it went viral, 4 million. God knows how high it was. The number one complaint from women was, I would never want to do that because what if he left? What if he started banging his secretary? What if he got a trophy wife? What if? And it was all based on fear. As I said, fear is the most monetizable emotion of humans.
Well, to be fair, though, men are statistically more likely to cheat than women.
Yes, true. But the thing is we've terrorized generations of women with the idea that if you don't have a career, if you don't have this will happen to you. And what happens is that fear is based on what's called the apex fallacy.
Well, what's the alternative, though? Like you're against no-fault divorce laws, and you're against alimony. You're against a man marrying a woman.
Alimony, by the way, is a law that is a holdover. It's a vestige from the 1930s, from the Depression era.
Sure.
Just so we know.
I don't know how that's relevant, but what I'm saying is, if we have men who are leaving women. My dad left my mom. We were on welfare. I know we talk about the welfare state like it's this sexy thing. It was $650 a month.
Yeah, real sexy.
$650 a month. Our rent was $450 a month. I remember that as a child.
As a kid, you're saying.
As a kid.
Yeah.
We'd go without food, and my dad didn't pay a whole lot of child support. I think it was like $90 a month when he did pay. And again, props to my dad. I love my dad now. We're good. And I got to see some of his perspective on the other end. But what about like when men are hypergamous? What about when men abandon women? Because I've seen that.
That is the only narrative you hear. That is absolutely the only narrative you hear is the deadbeat dad. Like, for instance, like we especially every Father's Day, it's not Father's Day anymore. It's Special Persons Day right now.
Which that's nonsense.
But you can get this in every church sermon. If you look at the difference between Mother's Day sermons and Father's Day sermons, Mother's Day is, oh, you're doing great, girl. We love you so much. You're doing the job of 10 men, and you don't need no man. You're just as good a father as you are as a mother. When Father's Day rolls around, the sermon is do better. Do better because you're not living up to your expectations, and it's constantly like that.
But isn't that a more masculine way to like get men to react?
That's why they're not in the church right now.
What would you tell Natalia? Or you said you have a 24-year-old daughter. The young women out there that are listening, what would your advice be for them? As far as like working, you made the distinction between having a job.
Your daughter's a PhD student.
No, she's got a master's.
She's got a master's.
But I mean, and she's getting married right now.
The difference between a career and a job and advice for women.
Well, so my point is this: is like I don't have a problem. Like people say, we talked about this on Jedediah again. We were talking about the repeal the 19th. And should we take away women's right to vote? I don't believe that we should. I think that women.
That's a thing now.
Well, it's been that way for a long. Dude,
repeal the women's.
Welcome to the MGTOW.
Who's advocating for that?
Doom pill, black pill, MGTOWs are advocating. So here's my point. I always think, okay, number one, that's untenable. Like that's never going to happen, period, because women are the largest voting bloc in the United States. Now, but beyond that point is, should women have the right to vote, right? Should they be the ones that are making decisions politically? You can talk about, what is a vote and what is not a vote as far as like, understanding electoral process. But the thing is this, is that I'm not against women participating in the government. I'm not interested. I don't care like what, as far as access to opportunity. I hope my daughter has equal access to opportunity that she wants. However, and I have told her this, is that you are also responsible for the results of your decisions. Because right now, up to this point, really since the sexual revolution, women have wanted to live with the benefits of old order privileges of being a woman with new order privileges of also, having been being a woman. So you have all of these, you have this decision to go and marry who you want to, but guess what? That might have been the wrong choice for you, or abortion for that matter as well. It's like you had sex with this guy, and now you have the baby, and it's not his decision to abort the baby, it's your decision. It's not about what happened before that. It's about you get to decide whether that child lives or dies. That right there is a result of this idea that we can forgive women of their absolve them of the bad decisions, so that they have a fail-safe in many different ways. Abortion happens to be a fail-safe, but it's also it's not that I don't think women should have choice. They need to own the results and the consequences of those choices. And right now, we don't do that. There's a separate standard of justice for women that is apart from men.